Hey everyone, I am so excited to share my good news with you. Exactly 1 year ago, I started the podcast, and today I want to share with you that I have published my first book. It is something that I've been working on for a little while. It's finally here. So, here it is. It is called The Therapy Sidekick. It's actually a therapy journal. So I'm going to tell you all about it, introduce it to you, explain to you how it works, and then I hope that it's something that you might be able to incorporate into your life. So primarily, I made it for my clients. Over the years, when I work with people, a lot of the times, I give them little homework assignments to do, kind of trying to help them be intentional in their week, to focus on the things that are going well, the things that they need to work on, and just kind of be mindful of their week so that when they get to counseling, we can really reflect on what happened during the week. We can talk about what was good and what really was a difficult struggle so that we can build on that and create kind of goals or steps and coping skills to progress and to get better. And the reason that I do that is because when you think about counseling, therapy sessions are amazing. But a therapy session is about 45 to 50 minutes long, and typically people come, once a week or every other week. So change isn't drastically happening in a session once a week. The majority of the change that happens in your life is going to be happening throughout the week as you live your life outside of your traditional or structured therapy session. So that's why it's really important that when you're at home or living your life, you are making an effort to be mindful of yourself, to work on things, to take what you're learning in counseling and to implement it into your life, and then to bring, whatever you're experiencing in life, bring that back to counseling so that we can work on that and improve it. But as I would give people these little tasks, everyone kind of keeps track of things differently, and some people really, without having something formal to keep track of it in, they just don't do it. They don't know how to be kind of structured like that for themselves. Some people will just use, a note in their phone. Some people will use just a notebook or a piece of paper or whatever. And then a lot of people, it's hard to keep up with that. So I was looking for resources for clients, wasn't really finding anything online. And so I decided to just make my own. And this is what I've created. So it is basically I'm going to kind of show you what it looks like on the inside, but it's something that as I've kind of developed it, I realized that it's, first and foremost, I made it for therapy, but it's actually something that can be used in lots of different kind of settings in life. So if you have, like if you're a therapist in training, if you go to supervision, this is a really, really good tool that you could use. If you have any kind of doctor or nutritionist or anything like that that you work with regularly and you need a way to keep track of progress and what you're doing well and what you're struggling with, or things that you need to really document when you're in your doctor's appointment so you can remember to work on it later. A lot of the times we go into appointments and we don't, we forget questions we want to ask. So keeping track of that, being able to be more organized. If you have a coach for anything, if you have a life skills coach or a business coach, or if you are seeing a trainer, a physical trainer, like exercising, things like that, this is a really good tool also to help you keep track of the things that you're working on throughout your week, and then to take away notes or assignments from your trainer to work on when you're home. So here it is. So let me walk you through it. So first couple pages, I give you a little intro that kind of explains what I just told you about how lots of the work that we do really needs to be done between sessions for growth to happen. And then it is a super simple tool. It is basically these 2 pages duplicated throughout the entire book so that you can keep track of it for your year. And I think there are 52 double pages, so it should hold you for an entire year if you're doing weekly counseling. And obviously, if you're not coming as often, it'll hold you longer. So page 1 is about preparing for your session. And, you could put what your next appointment date is if you want to keep track of that, just so you can kind of, when you're doing this for. And actually, I have a point on that I'll come back to in a second. And so this would be just a place to keep track of what you really want to talk about in counseling. Because what a lot of time happens is that when you're living your life, you're like, oh my gosh, I really want to bring that up in my next session. And then you move on and then you forget. And so a lot of the times I'll have people in sessions who are like, oh man, this thing happened. I don't remember what it is. I wanted to talk to you about it. Oh, it'll come back to me. And then a lot of the times it just doesn't. So this is where you get to keep track of that. If something comes up, just jot it down, keep it in here. It could be bullet points, however you want to do it. And then my wins this week is basically just an opportunity for you to talk about or just make a list of the things that went well. Because what a lot of the time happens when you get to a counseling session and you're talking about your week, it's so easy to remember the hard things that happened that week, and it's easy to forget that there was some good. And a lot of the times I focus a lot on what was good because that is what helps people feel proud of themselves or notice that they have actually made progress, because there are a lot of people that get discouraged and just feel like, nothing good is happening. It's just always so hard. My life is so difficult. And then really when we can look back at the good stuff, we can remember like, wow, but you remember when you got up on time every day, or you really finished all your assignments for school, or you didn't have a hard time going to that class like you usually do, or you had this meeting and you had to present and you did better, you didn't have as much anxiety, or whatever. It could be anything. So wins, and then my struggles this week, and that's just what you think it is, the things that really were difficult, that you had a hard time and you really want to focus on improving and working on. And then second page is what you would work on during your session, and this is just, where you can just dump whatever it is that you're, listening to in your session with your therapist, or ideas that you're coming up with, awarenesses that you're having. If you're like, okay, that's a really good point I want to work on, or if your therapist says something brilliant that you want to remember, jot it down, because you absorb so much. There's no way you can remember everything that happened in a 50-minute session. It's just not going to happen. So writing down key points, key things that you want to think about is really, really helpful. And then the goal is that maybe throughout your week, you can just kind of crack this open from time to time and take a look at it and see like, hey, that was something I really wanted to kind of spend some time journaling on or writing about, thinking about. I wanted to have this conversation with my spouse, and I wrote some notes to myself about what I wanted that to be like. So this would be where you would really have your takeaways. And then homework would just be whatever, if you and your therapist decide, hey, this week my goal is to try to, exercise this many times, or really, focus on finishing this project at home, or I really want to start, I want to reach out to this family member to talk about this thing, whatever it is. This is where you would put that, and that way you're keeping track. And so the point I said I was going to come back to, the reason that I like the date, and the reason that I like doing this is because I've had situations with clients where, months pass, we're working on stuff, and then we really kind of stop and think like, wow, do you remember where you were when at the January, and here we are, let's say it's in September, do you remember how much you were struggling with this? Do you remember how you were barely doing this thing? You were so overwhelmed and you were so anxious, and look at you now. And then we could literally open this back up, flip back to it, and see how much has changed over the course of a few months or a few weeks or however long. And that in and of itself can have such a drastic impact on the feeling of progress, the feeling of being proud of yourself when you're working hard on these kinds of things in your life. And so it's so nice to be able to look back and see on paper how you've changed, because there are times where I'm telling clients, do you remember that? And they're like, I totally forgot, because when you're living your life and you're experiencing hardship, it's really, really hard to remember things. It's hard to remember the good things. And sometimes it's hard to remember certain bad things. And so if we're looking back and we're seeing where you've been and we're seeing where you're going, or we can say, hey, do you remember last year at this time, you had a really, really similar situation going on? Let's look and see, is there a reason? Is it a seasonal thing? Is it an anniversary thing? And then we can look and we can really use that to benefit what we're working on. So I really, really love this. I'm excited to be able to provide this to people. I think it really can help progress in counseling, progress in other things in life. On the back just kind of tells you a little summary of it, has information about my website and the podcast and stuff like that. That's my picture. But I want you to, if you feel like this would be a good tool for you, if this would be helpful to you, please check it out. It is for sale on Amazon. It is $20 on Amazon. And if you, I'm going to actually get some copies to have here in the office for any clients who want to purchase it here, but I'm not going to have as many. So I would say if you want it, the best bet for you is to just go to Amazon.com and type in the Therapy Sidekick, scroll for it, find it, and then I'm going to link all of that on this. I'm going to send this out on social media, the email list, and everywhere. So thank you for watching this. I hope this is something that you would enjoy using. This is good for adults, for kids. I've made it to where it really is easy and user-friendly, something that you can work on with your children if they're in counseling, or honestly, this is something that you could use for kids just to keep track of behavior for the week. If you have kids who aren't in therapy, but are in therapy, but struggle with stuff that they're going through in their week with going to school or anything like that. If you sit down together at the end of the week and you really talk about the week, what was good, what was not good, what do we want to work on the following week, you can use this too. So it's really kind of a general help, but created with my therapy clients in mind. So thanks again. Look for it on Amazon, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Bye.